Alright, so we have a ton of new exciting details for the upcoming Ghost of Tsushima DLC/expansion called the Iki Island, and of course a couple of interviews with the game's creative director that go in a lot more details than ever before, including how big is this Iki Island expansion, what you should expect from it, how it improves upon the existing game, and how it actually brings new difficulties for you in terms of combat, in terms of gameplay, and other cool things on top. So many things actually that got me genuinely even more excited for the new DLC than ever before. So we're gonna jump in, starting things off right here with this Push Square interview with Nate Fox, the game's creative director. And right off the bat, they start with a big banger. How big is the Iki Island expansion? I'm sure that many of you were already wondering of this. Up until this point, we had just a bunch of speculation, but here is the answer. So Nate Fox mentions that if you're familiar with Ghost of Tsushima, Iki Island is the size of really the first act of the main game, Izuhara, that being of course the first region in the game. It's big, dense story with a lot of landscape and secrets to discover, which already gets me really excited, because if you played through this region already, that already puts it in the ballpark of about 20 hours plus if you also want to complete pretty much everything that the Izuhara region already had to offer. There's people out there that even played for over 30 hours just to complete everything before moving on to the second section of the map. He also further goes on to explain that it's quite similar to Ghost of Tsushima, where we strove to get this just right feeling of, you know, exploration and discovery, of moments of quiet and moments of violent tension from swordplay. So when we get that dialed in for Ghost of Tsushima, we use that same overall feeling of peaks and valleys for Iki Island as well, which again sounds really awesome. Another big question was, does Iki Island utilize the same gameplay mechanics as the main game, following the wind, all that kind of stuff? Is it building on Ghost of Tsushima, which is actually a really good question. So Iki Island is absolutely building on top of Ghost of Tsushima, Nate Fox further explains, but does add in a raft of new things as well. You know, new skills for the players to discover, new armor, of course new stories, and that's what drives a lot of the feeling of growth and newness when you play through the Iki Island expansion. We of course already know that it's going to be accessible starting Act 2, so as soon as you hit the second region, you're going to be able to actually shift to the DLC story and go in and complete the Iki Island expansion instead. But increasing the difficulty was also one of their main objectives with this new DLC. So Nate Fox has explained that, however, we really wanted to also embrace our players who had faithfully played through all of Ghost of Tsushima and wanted to have this experience. So the Iki Island expansion will kind of jump up in difficulty for those players who have really explored the breadth and width of Tsushima Island. I actually really like this. If you're like me, chances are that you maybe even completed a New Game Plus playthrough entirely since the release of the game, so you're definitely looking for an even bigger challenge, and maybe you're not satisfied with the challenge that already exists in the game because your builds are already maxed out, or you already have everything you want from the game, even if you play on lethal, for example. So this is exactly what we need, while still making it possible for new players to go in and enjoy a new experience alongside the already existing story of the main campaign. There was another question, does this mean we can expect more complex enemy encounters? So the question and the answer was, it is more difficult combat experience that will require you to use all of your weapons and skills really at their highest level, which again just sounds really awesome. I cannot wait to take on this challenge, and the fact that they are embracing the idea of even bigger challenges in their game instead of making things easier, you know, just makes this entire thing, the entire game for me and the new DLC, even more appealing. Now there was another question here that also relates to a recent leak that we had. I also posted about it here on this channel and heavily criticized it for the fact that it like made a lot of points that were really improbable, and like the biggest of them all was of course the fact that supposedly Sucker Punch would be creating a brand new stance for this DLC for some reason. I already made my point of why that made no sense, but it's nice to see the clarification here and the official confirmation on how that is going to pan out. So are there any new weapon types or additional gameplay mechanics in this expansion, or is it again just kind of building on what's already there in the main game, is the next question. So the answer here is we're absolutely absolutely building on what's already there. There are no new weapons or stances in this upgrade, but there are a good number of new armors and in particular skills that you can find that really change the way that you play the game. So there you have it, folks, straight from the fox's mouth, no pun intended. No new weapons or stances, and that was something that we already talked about, but there's going to absolutely be new armors and new skills, also including mythical skills that we will talk about in just a little bit that has also been confirmed, but these will also completely change the way you play the game. So at the very least you're going to have that build diversity in there that I believe more than makes up for any new type of weapon in case you wanted any of that. But Nate Fox further explains that they really wanted to lean into this idea that player expression, particularly through combat, is one of the things that makes the game very much your own. So whether you're a ranged player, a sneaky player, or just straight up let's fight sword to sword player, we wanted to give you more to dig into, which I mean already sounds really awesome. The game already covers pretty much any playstyle you want to go ahead and make for your character, so I mean it doesn't make any sense to just introduce a new stance which would also have no corresponding like bond scheme, since it's pretty much already covered by the one on the controller. But it's nice to have an official confirmation that that is actually the case. Also on the same note, we can absolutely expect new enemy types in the game. We already saw the shaman looking ones. Well, we actually have a bit of info on that, as well as this eagle character seems to be the main boss of this DLC, so the enemies and the types of enemies that you fight are going to be new and you'll have to figure out ways to fight them. They're going to be flavor changes. I think that's an important part because they support this eagle and her vision, and so they're as cryptic and as different as she is in a lot of ways. But enough with that, let's talk about like stories and cool rewards in the new update, and I want to specifically start things off with the mythical tales. We kinda had a few hints and nods that we already talked about in the previous video, but now we have two official confirmations, one from the creative director and one from another developer. So here is how it looks like. So the question was, are there going to be any mythical tales on Iki Island, and can you tell us about them, or is it just a secret? The first answer was yes, there are, and it's a secret, but that's the best part of it, he mentions. We do have though more information on that from Jason Connell, which is another person that works on the game. So without giving it all away, what I will say is that there are some new skills and some new abilities. There's some things that we lean into a little bit more that we're pretty excited about. We quite like our mythical tales that we had in Tsushima, so leaning into something like that, this game is going to be very rewarding and fun. Also, we lean into nature as sort of a theme. We had foxes in the base game, but there are more types of animals. I think about 3 more in total in this new one for you to experience, and I believe we already saw like the monkeys, we saw there's a cat that you can pet in the game, and I believe there's also like deer or moose, I can't really remember, but they did post about that on their official Twitter account. Now I want to see how this is going to work for these mythical tales and what are these new abilities, because the ones already in the game were pretty awesome as well. And now we have actual horse armor, he further goes into explain, as well as a horse charge ability that kind of scatters guys out of the way, and you can use it every now and then, and it's quite cool. You can see it in the trailer, it's pretty exciting, it gives a whole new use to riding your horse through an area. I'm using it as an actual weapon, which is very exciting. So yeah, we have a number of things that we're not talking about just yet, but that should be really exciting to our players when they jump in. So yeah, really exciting stuff to see that there's a whole bunch of new abilities that weren't even in the existing games already, and that they are willing to kind of expand upon it with cool, interesting ideas. Another really important question was, what about New Game Plus? Is the Iki Island expansion also tuned for New Game Plus mode? And the answer is yes, it's part of the New Game Plus landscape, likely meaning that you're going to see everything scaling up to that new difficulty, and also probably you're going to encounter like even tougher challenges there if you play on New Game Plus, but it's going to balance out since you're likely going to have pretty much everything unlocked at that point. Anyway, there's quite a bit more information that I will leave you guys at if you want to go ahead and have a more extensive read. These 2 interviews will be posted down below, but it already gives us a general idea of what to expect from the Iki Island expansion, and honestly again it looks even more exciting than before, so I cannot wait to play it on August the 20th when it finally launches. Totally let me know down below, how are you preparing for this new DLC? Are you getting everything done by the time this DLC gets released, or are you playing it alongside your current main campaign playthrough in case you started recently? That's it for now, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.